everybody, welcome back to my workshop, welcome back to my garage. This is video number 7 for my Great Guitar Build Off 2022 scratch build entry, the Elysium Firehawk. What we're going to be doing today is going over the neck and how I got it to this point right here. So basically this video is going to take us through what we've got with the neck so far. I've got the neck carved, I've got the frets installed, got the edges dressed, and it's ready to glue into the body. So let's get rolling. Alright, so it's time to start carving the neck. As you can see, we've got everything done on the front of the neck. And I've leveled the back already. Didn't get to show that. I lost the footage. I accidentally deleted it, so I didn't get the footage be smooth in the back of the neck. But basically all I did was I used my oscillating belt sander to smooth that out. So now what we're going to do is carve the neck, and we're going to do facets. The neck will be rounded when it's done, but we'll start by carving facets. What we're going to do is we're going to basically establish the center line on the neck, and then measure between the center line and the edge of the neck halfway, draw a line. On here we'll go from the bottom of the fretboard to the edge of the neck, we'll draw a line. And then what we'll do is we'll carve that away and facet that section out. We'll do that on both sides. And then once that's done, again we'll draw a line halfway between the edge of that facet and the center of the neck, and then halfway in the center of the facet, and we'll carve that one. And then we'll continue to do that, and as we carve it more, as we cut each facet, it rounds the neck more and more. And I know that the center line is going to roughly be right in the middle of that padouk strip that's there, because that was the initial center line on the neck anyway. So I know that center line is going to be right in this area. I've got my lines established here. Basically I start just inside of the lamination, black lamination on this end, and go just to the outside of the black lamination on that end, which allows for the thicknessing of the neck. And then what we'll do now is we'll just establish our center line here on the side of the neck. Alright, so I've got my initial facet lines established. What I'll do now is I'll just get this clamped down to the table, and with the combination of Shinto rasp and files, I'll just start knocking these corners off. Alright, so I've got my facet lines drawn. I've got my neck clamped down and supported. Now all I'm going to do is just use my Shinto rasp and start taking away some material, being careful where I'm at. And as you can see, this takes away quite a bit of material pretty quick. So you can get a neck carved to initial shape fairly rapidly. But I'm just going to take my time on this and get it filed down. Alright, so as you can see, what I did is I cut the other two facets in, and then I just surrounded off the facet. That left a little bit between the top line and the center line. Still need to round a little bit more there, and then just touch up around the edge of the fretboard right here. But as you can see, that's pretty much a smooth, a round radius now that I can attack with sandpaper and get to the point that I want it to be at. So I'll continue carving on the other side, get it to the same point. And then after that, then I can look at carving, starting to do some rough work on my volute to make sure everything is good there, and try to get start to get that carved in, but continue to work on the neck. All right, so I've pretty much got the neck carved. Still some final sanding to do. Right now I'm just sanding it kind of to 320. Once I get it in the guitar, then I'll do the heel. But the carve came out really nice on it. I'll let you see. The volute's carved in. Still a little fine tuning to go there, but that's okay. I'm not too concerned with that at the moment. It's pretty much where I want it to be. So what I ended up with on this, it's kind of a cross between a 60 slim taper and a 59. Les Paul neck. What I did is I kind of measured the guitars that I recently built. I built one with the 60 taper neck and the other one with the 59, and I kind of went right in between those with this one. It came out really nice. Still some final sanding to go on it, but pretty much carved, and we're ready to fret. The next thing we have to do is kind of just polish this fretboard a little bit. I want to run down with some like 600 grit and then some 800 grit paper on this just to polish that fretboard up before we fret it. But then once I get it polished, we'll be ready to stick some frets in this. So now it's time to start prepping the fret wire to fret the neck. First thing we're going to do is we're going to radius the fret wire. Alright, so I know I'm going to need 2 pieces of this. Basically this handy little device here, you slide it in and the tang fits in a groove on the one wheel. And you thread it through. So what you want is just a little bit tighter radius than what's on the fretboard. That way, when you hammer this in and tap it into the slots, it flattens out and keeps it tight against the edge. And it prevents the edges from kind of pulling up a little bit. And what I'm going to have to do with this too is, because this is bound, I'm going to have to nip the tangs off of the fret wire before it hits the binding. Alright, so what the next thing I need to do is, you can see the frets have that tang on the bottom. And what I need to do is I need to snip just a little bit back on each side of this tang. That way when the fret goes into the fretboard and spreads out, that tang is not going to push against the binding that I've got on the side of the neck. So what I'm going to do for that is, I've just got my neck and I've got my tang nippers. I want to be careful with this because I want to keep track of where these tangs go, because I don't need them on my workbench. But basically you just slide the fret wire in into the slot, and this little nipper is going to nip just a little bit off. So I'm just going to have to go through these one by one, trim a little bit off, make sure it's the right amount. I'm wanting to leave about 1/8 of an inch between the edge of the tang and the binding as I position the fret over it right now. That way when it straightens out, it should go right up to the binding. But there you go, you can see one with the tang nipped off of it. And then what I'll do is I'll take a file and just file down that edge just a little bit under each one. That way it's a smooth surface when it goes down onto the binding. We're ready to start fretting. We've got all the frets cleaned up on the ends, and everything's ready to go there. I went through and took a triangle file and just went right along the edge of each of the fret slots just to kind of round that edge over a little bit. That way in the future, if a fret has to come out, it's not as likely to chip the fretboard, and it also makes it a little easier to get the frets to go into the slot. I've got some wood glue here. I'm just going to put a little wood glue in the spot in each slot. It's not really to glue the fret in, it's more just to fill the void. That way there's just no gaps between the fret and the wood at the bottom or anything like that. So it just kind of fills the void. So I'd like to do about 3 or 4 at a time, maybe 5. Tap them in, and then I'll clean up and then move to the next ones. And also what I did is I went through with my slot cleaner and cleaned out all the slots to make sure there was no glue left over from the binding or anything like that. And I went through with my depth gauge and re-verified that all my slots are the correct depth. That way I don't end up bottoming out a fret and having to pull it out and cut the slot deeper. So I made sure I just double checked to make sure all of that was good to go before I even started the process. And to put these in, I'm just going to line them up, kind of center them with the slot tang. Set each side, and then tap from the center out. And that looks good. And what that does by doing it that way is it spreads those tangs out, and the little grooves in it lock into the wood. That's why you set the edges and then go from the center out. What I'm going to have to do now is, because of the way the tenon is and because of this fretboard, the way it overhangs, I want to be careful when I'm installing these last few frets because I don't want pressure on this outside to crack the fretboard, because this is it's very strong wood, but it's very brittle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and put it in the guitar. That way it'll be in here like it's supposed to, and the joint where the neck meets the body is going to support any pressure that goes on that edge. So that way I'll be able to put the frets in without having to worry about potentially damaging anything or cracking my fretboard, because it's going to have support underneath. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I've got this fret file, and I'm just going to go down the side of the neck and file these fret ends level. And this is just to clean up the fret ends to where they're not sharp or anything like that when you're trying to do work. Now we'll take this file, and this one just sits on the fretboard, the Teflon edge, and then the edge of the file and what this is doing is this is putting about a 30-degree bevel. But I want it beveled all the way down to the binding. That way when I go to do my roundovers, they look better and they round over much easier. So yesterday my camera died just as I was doing the final edge dressing on the frets. But luckily enough for the viewing audience is I had several frets that just weren't seating right. I wasn't happy with the way they were seating, so I had to pull them up and refret them. 7 frets in all, but I've got them refretted now. What we're going to do is go through my process of what I did. You know, first I filed the edges flat, and then I put a bevel on them, and now what I'm going to do is take my edge dressing file and just kind of round those edges over and start to get them smoothed out. That way I remove any sharp edges for the rest of the assembly, and plus it just makes it easier for down the road. When I go to do my fret level, I know that the ends of my frets have already been dressed. And for this I'm just using my StewMac fret dressing file, and it's got 3 sides on it. The edges are safety edges, so there's no file on the edge, and I just take and I'm just going to round these frets over on the edge to kind of give them that, you know, nice rounded look on the edge of the fret. I find it easier for me to do it when I'm looking over the top of it. That way I can see. And I'm not rolling over the top of the fret. I'm just kind of rounding off these edges. Let's go and bring you in close here and you can see what I've got. You can kind of see the difference right here. This is one right here that hasn't been beveled yet. It's just got the 30-degree bevel on it. And this fret here to the side of it, that one's been rounded over. You notice I just rounded over the edge of the frets. And that way it's nice and smooth going up and down the side of the fretboard. And it'll, like I said, it'll make it easier once the final level and polish is done. Then these fret ends will get nice and dressed, and that'll round up a little bit more once I do with the sandpaper and polish them. I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been tuning into the channel, all the new subscribers that I've gotten. I really appreciate it as I'm trying to grow this channel and do more and more things on it. So thank you very much. Please, if you like what I'm doing, click like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. I'd really appreciate it. This has been a great entry for my Great Guitar Build-Off this year. I'm really enjoying this build. Please check out all the other builders that are out there. There's a ton of great guitars being built. I just can't say enough about some of the people and some of the guitars that they're building, and just their craftsmanship on how they do the things. All right, that's going to wrap up this video. I just want to say thank you for those of you that stayed till the end. I really appreciate it. Again, please click like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. In the next video, I'll be going over getting this thing glued into the body, getting my bridge pickup routed, getting my bridge installed, and looking at starting to do final sanding for finish. So again, thank you very much, and until next time, take care.